Hey everyone, welcome to this full moon Sidereal astrology forecast for the full moon on September 2nd, 2020. All right, so full moon in Aquarius. If you're expecting me to say Pisces just then, be sure to check out the link down below. We are using the actual visible sky, which is different from mainstream astrology. All right, so status check time, full moon, the heightened phase of the lunar month, which is all about seeing how is our Aquarian side doing. And the Aquarius side of ourselves is the side that is the visionary, does want to induce change for the future. Now, this could be the collective future, maybe themes around seeing the world and how we can induce change and maybe contribute to the world or to our communities or network circles, but also just our own future visions in general. What are our ideals for the future and how can we build towards those and induce change in order to make them happen? So Aquarius is the side that is also very individualistic, so a great time of seeing how we can connect to our eccentricities, our unorthodoxy, our willingness to challenge the status quo, because in order to cultivate these visions that do require change, we do need to be willing to, add that change, which could be our individuality, it could be that eccentricity, it could be that willingness to challenge our own or the collective status quo that allows for this to happen. So with this full moon, no major aspects with it, but we do have a sextile up to Uranus, the ruler of Aquarius, adding to this progressive kind of energy. With Uranus in Aries at the moment, this visionary energy could involve maybe taking initiative and getting in touch with that fiery side, direct, assertive, independent side, which is Aries. All right, so this is going on with the full moon. We also have some aspects and some sign changes. So let's go and take a look at all of this here in more detail when we return. All right, so here is the chart for this full moon. The exact time of the full moon will be at 02:26 Eastern time of the Americas on September 2nd. But regardless of where you are in the world, for all intents and purposes, it will be at the very end of Tuesday or very early Wednesday going into the remainder of the lunar month. So again, as you can see here, we are using the actual visible sky. You can see the constellations are different sizes here in this chart. That's because the constellations in the sky are different sizes. So we're using what's called true sidereal astrology, but this does change the signs from mainstream astrology, which all use an even 30 degrees for the constellations. So if you were expecting me to say that the full moon's in Pisces, definitely check out that link down below for more information on true sidereal astrology. All right, so first things first, what is a full moon? A full moon is a status check time of both the lunar month, so the past 2 weeks. How is this stuff that maybe we've been focused on or developing or have come into our life over the past couple weeks? How can we do a status check and see how those things are going and maybe making some shifts and changes around this early part of the week in order to further develop this energy, right, for the remainder of the cycle for the next 2 weeks. But this could also be in a yearly sense as well. Also a good time during full moons to do a status check on the past 6 months. How has that energy been going and how can we further develop this new perspective, this new awareness we gained during the full moon for the remainder of the solar cycle, so the next 6 months. So with this, fundamentally, this is about doing a status check with the Aquarian side, the side of ourself that is the visionary, right? The constellation of Aquarius is the person pouring water into the stream for all to drink. And so this represents the side of ourself that has these ideals for the future. And it could be for ourselves or it could be for the collective, right? So it's an excellent time to see what is our future ideals and what are we forecasting for the future? What are we intuiting about the future that maybe we can start to put some energy into to induce the change that we want to see? Maybe the change collectively, maybe the change in terms of our community, maybe the change just for our own hopes and wishes for the future, right? Great to get into this visionary, future-oriented, and progressive side. And the progressive side of Aquarius is the fact that in order to induce change, in order to cultivate these ideals, we do need to introduce something new into the mix. So it's a really good time of experimenting, of trying new things, and perhaps most importantly, getting in touch with our eccentric, individual, and challenging the status quo side of ourself, right? To access more of our true self that is different from the collective, is different from the status quo, that we can add to the mix in order to help cultivate these visions. So great time of doing this status check. How is our individualistic sort of side? Are we cultivating our true self? Do we feel free? Do we feel like we're able to be different, eccentric, or challenge the status quo? How are our visions for the future? How are those going? Can we put some more energy into those and cultivate those? Again, personally and collectively makes this an excellent time to do this status check. Both in the past 2 weeks. The past 2 weeks has been about focusing with the sun in Leo on what is it we love? What do we find fun in life? Because in order to really gain passion and energy in life, doing the things we find fun is great. But what really unlocks that is when we contribute to something greater than ourselves, right? It's usually friends. It's usually some future ideal that unlocks our passion, right? Some future ideal, something greater than ourselves, some collaboration sometimes. That's really where the excitement is. That's where the energy is and the fun is. So with this full moon, it is about balancing this side, these two sides, Leo and Aquarius. Because Aquarius, to cultivate those visions, yes, we do need to be having fun. We do need to be expressing ourselves as well. So the world needs that. Our future visions need that. But also the other way around. In order to have fun and enjoy things, have passion in life, usually we do have to have some sort of ideal to strive towards, either personally or collectively. So great time of now finding this balance. How has this past 2 weeks been in regards to what we find fun and what we enjoy and we're passionate about, and now incorporating the more visionary and collaborative and contributing side of ourself, which is the Aquarian energy. And with this time, with this awareness, again, we might make some shifts and changes for the next 2 weeks to incorporate that. All right, so let's take a look at some of these aspects. So really just one. We have a sextile up to Uranus, which is quite harmonious since Uranus does rule Aquarius. So it's just adding to a bit of this extra energy. But what's most important about it is that Uranus is in Aries at the moment, retrograde. So the Aries energy about it is that over the past couple years, in order to induce change in our life or collectively, it has been requiring more initiative, more confidence, more assertiveness, more action, right? Fiery Aries. So this is really good to see how we can incorporate into the mix. Are there things we can take initiative towards? Do things in the face of any, confidence, that require confidence or assertiveness or a sense of independence, right? This could be a really good way of working with this. And with Uranus retrograde, it could mean that a lot of this is still a bit internalized at the moment. Maybe going within, to see what is our visions for the future and reflecting on this kind of energy a little bit. But nonetheless, bringing it out to the surface because the full moon is an extroverted kind of energy. It is the heightened energy of the lunar month, and it usually does suggest implementation, right? And taking action and applying this energy into the world. But great to do that in a fiery way of Uranus in Aries. All right, so that's it for the full moon. Very straightforward, no other major aspects with it. Now, looking at this in terms of what else we have going on around the full moon, we do have a couple other aspects which I've talked about in the weekly video. If you haven't yet seen the weekly, do check that out. But I do want to mention that Venus will be opposite Saturn on the exact day of the full moon, which is usually just a good time to also do a status check with our relationships in our life in terms of how can we continue to take time, patience, and discipline into our relationship life to really ground them and implement them. And with Venus starting to shift into Cancer this part of the week, the shift of what we're enjoying or valuing or the way we're connecting in our relationships is in a more emotional way. We're probably going to start to value a little bit more emotional security and connecting in our relationships in a way that's a little bit more on that emotional level. Essentially creating that protective environment for ourselves and others so we can, connect more to the emotional feeling-based realms, caring, nurturing kind of energy of those relationships. So along with this, we do have Mercury also changing sign around the full moon, going into Virgo, which is a great placement for Mercury to be in, which represents starting to think a little bit more about what can be improved in our life. So good to think about things that can be fixed, problems that can be solved. How can we, kind of work with things in life, figure things out, improve things in order to better our lives or the lives of others, maybe through our service or our work. So our mind's starting to go into the more work-oriented, detail-oriented, improvement-oriented energies with the full moon. I do want to mention as well. All right, but other than that, everything else is very straightforward with the full moon. Status check time. How is our Aquarius side, our visionary side, our progressive side? And how can we balance that with still focusing on what we love and we find fun in life? If there's any way we can combine these two, what we find fun and also what the world needs, or what we find fun and what our future visions need to be developed, this would be a great way of incorporating this full moon, especially if there are some things that you can do that require action or initiative with Uranus and Aries. All right, so everyone have a fantastic full moon. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to click that like button if you haven't yet. If you're not yet signed up for the MTZ Insiders newsletter for this video coming out sooner than YouTube and other videos like it, definitely check out the link down below for signing up. But again, have a great one, and I will see you all next time for the next astrology forecast. Take care.